Good afternoon and welcome to Raab Journal. I'm the CEO and founder, Calvin Raab. Today we'll be talking about a small little coffee company called Starbucks. Okay, I'm kidding, but it's affected everyone. Everyone's really been there. With thousands and millions of cups of coffee sold every year, it's one of the most influential companies in the world. So today we'll be talking about how it started. Like, did you know it all started really after a trip to Milan in Italy? Well, that's what we talk about today. So, I got a full tank of gas. Let's head to Starbucks and learn about how it all began. Alright, so we are now in the car, and let's talk a little bit about the history of Starbucks. So when you're talking about the history of Starbucks, you gotta go all the way back to the beginning, around 1970s, I'd say 1971, when 3 college students from the University of San Francisco got the idea to start a coffee company. And those 3 college students were Jerry Brown, Zev Siegel, and Gordon Bowder. And they got their inspiration to start this coffee company from Alfred H. Peet. They got their inspiration from the way he did it and said, hey, we could do that. We could start a coffee company. They didn't really see it they were up in the Bay Area, San Francisco, and they're like, hey, we could do it. We could almost do it better. And that's kind of the key to every entrepreneur, and they were off. So they had the dream, they had this idea, and the next thing they needed was actually a name. So now they had to come up with a name. This is actually very interesting if you look at the other choices and what it could have been. Other ideas they had were Pequod and Cargo Ship was the other one. Now that would kind of be a whole different story if they had gone with the name Cargo Ship. You're like, hey mom, hey dad, I'm gonna go get some coffee at Cargo Ship. You want some? Alright, back to the story. So those were other 2 ideas, and eventually they landed on the name Starbuck. And if you recognize some of the names, Cargo Ship and Starbuck, it's because they're all from Moby Dick. And once they kind of saw that and they had the name Starbuck, they really liked it. So eventually an S was added, and Starbucks, they decided was the name. And then it was afoot. They started the company. Little side random note, but I'm actually going by Phillip Rivers, the quarterback of the San Diego Chargers house right now. Pretty cool. Alright, so back to San Francisco. They started it on 2000 Western Avenue, and it's actually not there anymore. It was moved, I believe, 5 years later, yeah. Now things get interesting. How did they become the Starbucks they are today? Well, it all started with the current CEO, Howard Schultz. Howard Schultz really transformed this company, but his road to being CEO is actually even more interesting, how it all started. So we gotta start with Howard Schultz. How did he become CEO? Well, from the moment he stepped into a Starbucks, he said he loved it. In multiple interviews, he said that it felt like home. It felt like somewhere where you wanted to be. And so he always knew he was going to be involved in Starbucks. He was actually hired to Starbucks as a retail and advertising and maybe a couple other things. It was a pretty important position. And those key jobs of retail and advertising play a key role in the role he plays as CEO and later, which we will come to. So he fell in love with Starbucks, and then he went to Italy. And he went to actually Milan in Italy. Not gonna lie, I'm actually completely lost right now. I have no idea where I am. Like, what on earth? There's a golf course right here, right by my house. There's no room for a golf course by my house. It's all houses. Where on earth am I? Key thing about Italy is their coffee shops. You always think of these quaint kind of Italian coffee shops that have people that have lived there forever selling delicious coffee, and that's what he saw. And they were different from Starbucks. They didn't just sell the beans, they sold this sort of experience. It was a place to hang out, a place for people to go. It was an inviting and liked place. People could study and talk, and he was very drawn to that. And he's like, I want that back in America, back at Starbucks, because that's where he worked and that's the place that he loved. So he went back to America and actually talked to the owners. He sat down with them and said, hey, look, this is what I saw. This is what I loved in Italy. It was the true coffee experience, and I want that here. I want that to be added to Starbucks. And they did give it a trial run. They listened, and the trial run, it didn't fail. In fact, it did quite well. But the more the owners of Starbucks looked at it, they said, this isn't really what we want. This is more of a restaurant. We're not looking for a restaurant. We have more of just a coffee shop. We're not looking for a restaurant experience. So they actually shot him down. And of course, who Howard Schultz is, he's a very driven guy. Whatever he wants to happen, he's gonna make it happen. That's why Starbucks has succeeded all these years. So he kind of got frustrated. He's like, they're not doing what I intended, what I need, what I think would be best. So he got out of there. He left, and he started his own coffee company, Giorno. That is Italian, so of course I'm butchering the name and how to say it all together, but it worked for him. It's what he wanted to do, and he liked it. Starbucks owners went back and they saw what he was doing, and they're like, that's actually a really good idea. So they eventually sold Starbucks to Howard Schultz, I believe for $3.8 million. Now what a steal that is. Imagine getting the whole all of Starbucks for $3.8 million. Now that is a good deal. And once Howard Schultz kind of was in charge and rebranded everything, really that was it. That was everything Starbucks need to skyrocket to the company they are today. And the rest, I guess I was to say, is kind of history. So now let's kind of dive into who is she? Who is the lady that is on that famous Starbucks logo? Who is she? Well, she is actually a mythological Greek creature. Siren, I believe. I don't know if it's pronounced specially, but Siren. She's kind of a connoisseur, a deceiving mermaid. They would sit up on a kind of the rocks, and they would lure in sailors, saying with dancing and music, and then the sailors would come and crash their boats and to try to get to them. And very strange. I was quite confused, I have to admit, for that chapter. The guy just randomly came on and gave me a thumbs up. Alright. Thumbs up, buddy. So now that we're here are 6 quick facts that just blew my mind away about Starbucks. And if you just look them up, they have some pretty crazy facts, being such a big company they are. In between 1987 and 2007, there was an average of 2 stores opening a day across the country, or the world. Which is insane. Alright, so you may say, I see coffee, I see Starbucks everywhere. It's on every corner. And technically, you almost could be right, but you would be right in Santa Fe Springs, California, where it's the highest density of Starbucks. Within 25 miles, there's 560 Starbucks. Now that, I can just imagine going on Yelp, being like, oh, where should we go? Look, all we can go to is Starbucks. That's it. Oh man. Look at the menu, but there's a lot more to the menu than you could ever imagine. There's 87,000 drink combinations. And with their little small menu, I would never know. But sometimes, you know, when you like get there and someone gets up there and they just order something you've never heard of, they're like in another language. Like, I'll get the caramel macchiato extra hot with water, blah, 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 blah. Go on for like 10 minutes. I'm pretty sure the Starbucks people, they know like every single one too. Like, there's like, where they have a huge size. The biggest size is the Trenta. It's 916 milliliters, which is huge. No one should drink that much. It's bigger than your stomach. I don't know where you're gonna put it all. It's like a party of 10. You drink the whole thing, coming to like, because it's, you alright, you alright? I just had a Trenta. And fast fact, if you're buying a house now, if you live near a Starbucks or buy a house near a Starbucks, that actually makes your house more valuable. Well, now you know. Alright, I ordered. I'm now waiting. Let's see if it comes. Alrighty, so I got 2 chocolate shakes and a cake pop. I've actually never had a cake pop. I don't actually know really what they are. It's not bad. Doesn't really have that much flavor though. A little bit of sugar on the go, right? Alright, so that kind of concludes it. Thank you very much for coming along with me to Starbucks. I hope you guys learned a lot about how the company kind of started, and if you do want to learn a whole lot more, head on over to my article that I wrote about it. The link is in the description below. You'll see a lot more facts, and it'll blow your mind, I promise. But thank you guys so much for listening, and if you guys want me to do more videos like this, a more in-depth look on different companies, how they all started, be sure to let me know. Just leave them in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for listening. This has been Calvin Raab, and I'll see you soon. Ugh. I left my wallet at Starbucks.